Hey, 190, you've made it. Week 16, a whole semester in the books. As weird as it's been, at this point, I think all we can really hope for is that we've all remained healthy. I mean, birds in my neighborhood have been going to the doctor for treatments. The bananas on my counter have been seeing the doctor because they're not peeling well. I myself have become an expert with all these ups and downs, no days, who knows what day it is, right? I've become an expert at sleeping. I can do it with my eyes closed. In all seriousness, we do have a couple of things to close out the semester. We need to talk about your final paper. We need to talk about the possibility of makeup work if you need it. And we need to talk about the idea evaluation. All right, before we get to those three, let me first offer a sincere thank you. This course is, obviously about my own little weird inquiry into a culture that is interesting to me. Hopefully you found it interesting too, but I really thank you for your effort and your consideration and indulgence and willing to extend yourselves a little bit into an area that more than a few of you know nothing about or knew nothing about before you got to the course. So hopefully it's been at least engaging, and if nothing else, hopefully it's a good exercise in how to engage in a cultural study as part of a humanities course, right? There's a number of different avenues from which to approach things. You found your most interesting one, and hopefully you can take that into some topic or subject of interest of your own. That's how inquiry works. That's how academia works, really. And then on the other side, who knows what you do with that? These things parlay themselves into all kinds of roles. I think if you take a look at week 1, I put up a reading at the very beginning of the semester. What will you do with that, right? About what a degree in the humanities can do. Take a look at it. Read it. It really does give you some possibilities and ideas and advice about the benefit of a humanities degree. Consider it. All of you should. All right, down to business. We got to talk about final paper, makeup work, and idea evaluation. Let's talk about makeup work first. Okay, makeup work. Sometimes happens, right? Que va. Instead of me punishing you with some arbitrary letter of the alphabet, the purpose of the course was to give you a foray into early inquiry of a humanities subject. To that end, I'd rather have you do the inquiry than just punish you. So, if you have work that's outstanding and we don't have some other prior arrangement, then I need whatever it is that you would like to submit due to me via email by May 9th. May 9th. 9th, right? Yeah, I looked because it's math. May 9th. Grades are due from me to the university by May 11th. So after May 9th, if it's not in my email inbox and you haven't told me about something for some reason, right? Que va. So look at your grades, see what could be of benefit if you need to make something up or if you want to redo something. Right? I'm open, right? Again, I would rather see you practice and attempt the inquiry than hold some letter of the alphabet over your head. Okay, that takes care of makeup work. Let's look at the final paper and the idea evaluation.
Forget, this date is rapidly approaching. Hopefully you've chipped away at this and haven't waited, right? If you need to remember what it is that you were supposed to do, check the announcement for these 2 weeks. The assignment here also gives you some insight, but you're better off going back and watching a bit of the video too, right? May 3rd, don't forget. It's your last weekly response. For the last bit of the class, here's what we need. Your response paper. Let's deal with that first. Here's where you'll submit your final draft, and I've also given you some links below if you want to look at doing your paper in Spark. I'll give some extra credit for that. We'll put 3 points on the end if you do it in Spark, so it's something worth your effort and time should you consider it. For now, let's just look at the paper in general, which can be done via Word, no problem. You are to write a response paper for readings and viewings of your choice. The response paper should address the claims or themes of the author and attempt to place them in contemporary and current context of surfing as ethos and culture. In other words, how does this thing fit in surfing lifestyle or reflect some ideal of surfing or suggest an ideal of surfing? Or what does it add to surfing? You should note the role that genre plays in reader reaction, right? In other words, if it's a video, how does that kind of work versus it's an image versus how does that kind of work versus it's a work of fiction, it's a work of poetry, it's a painting, what is it? Strongest papers will attempt to address and make connections between themes and relevant works. In selecting more than one work, you may compare and contrast how the works reflect the element of surfing you've chosen. If you just choose one work, it means a much closer reading of the text. Like, say, for example, you could do, just tapping the source. Might be interesting. Regardless, this is a response to something you read or saw. So you will be making an argument, so to speak, and offering supported opinion about the things you note. Don't make this into more than it is. Essentially, this is just a longer weekly response. You've been doing this for the last 5 weeks. This one just requires you to put together your own group, right? I've been giving you readings and groupings based around different themes, whether it was countercultural or environment or etc. Now you get to pick, right? What things across surfing that we looked at did you find most interesting, right? Go use those things. You can use the sources that we've used all semester. You are also free to find your own sources and bring in your own elements and works. You can work with what you've been given all semester. They're all still open and available, or you can find and add your own, right? But the idea is, okay, find enough things to group together your paper in a way that it makes a cohesive, insightful reflection that ends in a concluding thought, right? How long? 4 to 5 pages, right? I prefer MLA, but if you want to do APA, I'm okay with that too. Yes, you need a works cited page or a references page. If you're going to do the Spark, then there's a little bit of trick to that, but I can show you how to defeat that too. So, right? Your final paper is just a longer weekly response paper. You could take one of the weekly responses you've already done and add to it, maybe expand on it a bit, right? Develop it a little bit more, play it out through a couple of other sources. I'm okay with that, right? There's no need to rewrite the wheel if what you've already engaged in was interesting to you. Go for it. Now, for the extra credit, right? You need to do it in Spark. How do you do that? For those of you who already have experience, this is no problem. For those of you who don't have experience, then the probably 2 trickiest things in doing this are 1, logging on and getting started, and 2, knowing how to click and maneuver through a web page. Spark is pretty easy and pretty user-friendly. It's not difficult, and it can really make for some really cool projects. To help you get logged in, here's a video from Dr. Melissa Sexton in our composition department. And here is a little video from her as well on how to generate the web page. As I said, you need to include a works cited page or a references page. In Spark, the only way to do that and keep formatting is that you need to take a screenshot of your finished source or works cited page and then insert that screenshot into Spark as a picture at the end, so that it will look something like this. Here's an example from a 201 composition course of what a final paper can look like when done in Spark, right? Nice title page. Then you can mess with the blocks of text, right? Include graphics along the side. Subtitles are always fair game. Able to include charts with some amount of graphic relief, right? Looks really professional and polished. To finish, make sure you hit submit, right, so that it actually publishes as a page. All kinds of cool stuff that you can do with this, as well as consider what you want to add. If you're talking videos, you can add it straight in there, right? It develops a page for you. You can see what happens if you try to include your references. The formatting is slightly off because it won't allow you to do hanging indentions. But the way to defeat that is to take a picture and then insert the picture as a graphic, and then all your formatting will be right. Even still, right, it's an excellent exercise in kind of all the techniques really of a humanities course, composition. So maybe give it some consideration. The last thing to consider for you is the idea. Not your idea, but the idea evaluation. I've put it in here under part of last class, right? And I'm going to set the due date for April 30th because that's when the idea evaluation for the course closes. I know that doesn't give you much time, but it's not terribly difficult either. I've asked you 4 simple questions here. Please give me some comments, right? You don't have to write a dissertation for each, but any suggestions you can give are helpful, and I do use them as I try to redesign and move the class forward for things that are helpful and or students want. Then obviously please do this as well, right? It's part of the points. It's an easy 5 points. But it also gives me feedback and gives me some comments as to what worked, what didn't work. And I don't see these until July, so there's no need to lie about it. I won't ever know who your name is unless you sort of self-identify yourself in some way. Otherwise, please be as honest as appropriate, right? So that covers both the end of this dual week response, your last paper, an example of how to do it in Spark, and what I need from you for our last class session. The idea evaluation is in here. Final paper due May 5th. Right? We'll talk about makeup work in the other section of the video. This is due April 30th, May 5th, and for your pleasure and fun, view that when you're all done. Okay, that's it.
Okay, there's the paper and the idea evaluation. Again, please, please, please use those questions and make some comments in the open-ended comments. I actually read those and use those for future courses. A couple of you, Sierra, that have had me in other courses, you can attest to that. I do read that stuff and I pay attention to it. I won't know who it is and I won't read it until July, so it won't affect your grade if that's what you're worried about. Instead, just be honest. That's the most helpful. As for you, I would like to be able to reach out and help you. So if you ever need a recommendation, say for a scholarship or for grad school or for a study abroad program or some future endeavor where such a letter might be helpful, I would be happy to write it for you. If you would ever need help looking at a paper for another class and you just want one set of eyes, you give me enough time, I generally can do that pretty quick. I'm happy to help. Right? This is a special little class for me, and you guys are a unique little crew, and I don't think there isn't a single one of you that didn't put forth as much effort as you possibly could. And for that, I truly do appreciate it, right? Not everybody was going to find a deep, dark interest in surfing, but hopefully some of the foray of inquiry and the value of a humanities subject was made aware to you. I think if you could go back and look in week 1, you'll find that reading and give it some consideration. Okay, I guess that's about it. Well, fill out the idea, turn in that final paper, email me any missing work by May 9th, email me any problems or concerns as well, right? I'm more than happy to try and work with you and help you out. I guess that just leaves me with, the final piece of advice for the semester. Well, let's go with this one. Careful of stairs. Yeah, they can be a fickle friend. Sometimes they're down to get you there, and other times they're just up to something. Okay, that's it. Stay out of trouble or don't get caught. Maybe I'll see you in the water. Thank you, 190.